Did you know that any 3 yards work with any of our patterns? Well, today I'm going to show you how. Keep watching. Hi, it's Fran Morgan with Fabric Cafe, and I'm your fabric matchmaker. Today on Matchmaker, we have lots of extra images I can't wait to share with you, and some really great stories and some fascinating fabric. So let's jump in and see our first participant's fabric. It's very interesting. So Debbie sent in this fabric, and I'm going to tell you, whenever I first opened the package for this fabric, of course the first thing I go to is the fabric because I want to see it right away. And I'm looking at it going, what is this? And I'm looking. I had to go to her letter to find out what was going on here. So I'm going to read the letter and then I'm going to point it out on the fabric again. But it's this great fabric. You're going to love this. So Debbie writes, my grandson Jace, who will be 13 in November, asked me to make him a quilt. We found this skateboard fabric, which is perfect for him since he is big into skateboarding. He likes purple, gray, and black. I haven't found anything that looks quite right with this fabric. I was trying to find a pattern with a bigger square to showcase the skateboards. Thank you, Debbie. Well, Debbie, I think I've got something great for you. And as I said, this is a skateboard fabric with all of its little accessories and parts that have been spread out and then put together into one big skateboard. So let's look at the pattern that we've chosen for this and see how it's going to work. So I have chosen Porch Rails for your pattern, which is going to work really nice. And I think it's good for a guy quilt too. So of course we're going to be using your fabric, and that's going to go in this block here. Now this is a nice 8-inch block, so it's going to showcase your skateboards really well. And then we have a lot of movement here with the in-between. So let's put this on the table and let's check out what we've chosen for Jace's quilt. Okay, so Debbie, for Jace's quilt, we are going to be placing the skateboard fabric in the #1 position. And of course, that is in the block here. And it is a nice size block. It's an 8-inch block. So you're going to get quite a bit of these pieces of the skateboard that are on here, as well as the finished skateboard in that block. So you'll really be able to see it. So I love that. Now, for our #2, love this stripe. This is a cool stripe. So it kind of has this uneven effect. I don't know what it's not just this real structured stripe. It's a really neat stripe. Now it has your purples in it, which I know you mentioned that Jace really likes. So this is a purple and a blue stripe with the dark and the light and the medium blue. Very nice. It is going to go everywhere the blue is here. Now it's going to look really cool too because it's going to be sideways. You're going to see in just a minute in the image. And it's going to be super duper. Okay, so #3, we've got this great black. Now this black is a little bit of a speckle that has some gray in it, and it's an uneven speckle, so it looks a little bit more rough and tumble, kind of like this #2 stripe is an uneven stripe. It's not real structured. It's got the flow to it. The #3 is the same way. Picks up kind of the variation in the skateboards here as well because they're kind of black and gray also. Now this is being your #3 is going to go everywhere the pink is. So it's going to give you a nice anchor and it's going to really help that quilt pop. So I love that. Now we have an image of this and I think this turned out fantastic. You know, I tell you guys every once in a while, whenever I'm working with your fabric and I put it in all these different quilt patterns and all these different variations, every once in a while one pops on the screen that I'm just like, that's it. And this was one of those. I just love this. I think it looks so boy, and I love that because I think Jace is going to just be head over heels with it and love his skateboard quilt. So Debbie, for participating today, I am going to be sending you 1 yard of the #2 and 1 yard of the #3 fabric, as well as the book Pretty Darn Quick Quilts, and this does have your pattern in it for the Porch Rails pattern, so you'll be able to make that up, and I just hope Jace loves it. Now for the rest of you, I've got something really cool too. Now, I was able to find some really cool skateboard fabric. Now, it's on black. It has a black background instead of the light gray that Debbie's had, but I think it works just as well. And it's got all of these different skateboards on it. You can see the wheels here, and it's got all these cool sayings. It says dude and rad and all these fun things. So if you've got a young man in your life that you're looking for a quilt, this would be a fantastic one. So this is our focus. It's going to be going in our big block here. And then we have the same number 2 fabric, which is just awesome. And of course, it's going to go everywhere the blue is, and it's going to be sideways like this, which is cool, which you saw in that image. We got another image for you too, so hang on. Then we have our number 3, the same black, that black and gray speckle that's not too uniform, just a little rugged. It's going to go everywhere the pink is. This is a very, very rad quilt, so to speak. So if you look on the screen, you can see how great that turned out and how the skateboard fabric is just so fun. And that stripe, that uneven stripe, just works so well in this pattern. Just absolutely love it. All right, the kit information on this one for you. It is 8023223. It is called Skater Boy. The pattern is Porch Rails, and it's from the Pretty Darn Quick book. So our next participant is Kathie, and Kathie sent in this really fun swirl fabric and all these beautiful colors. I just loved this. It's a really cool fabric. It has a black background, and then it almost looks like one of those pointillist things where there's all these dots that come together and create this great fabric. So love this. Let's see what Kathie has to say about it. So Kathie writes, I am a member of my church's prayer quilt ministry. We have a bolt of this beautiful fabric, but we don't know what to do with it. We have all of your 3-yard quilt books and many of the single patterns. We use them a lot. They are perfect for us as we can make them quickly, which is helpful because so many of our requests are urgent ones, and we only meet for 2 hours twice a week. I am in hope that you will pick a quilt pattern in a book that you think will have a few patterns that would work well for this fabric. This fabric is so pretty, happy, and colorful. I just know you can find some coordinating fabrics to make several beautiful and different quilts for people in need of support, prayers, and encouragement. It will mean so much to have some ideas of what other fabrics we could use that we may have. Hopefully, it will bring joy to someone's troubled life. Well, Kathie, I think I've got some great stuff and got some extra images for you. So let's start with our first pattern choice. This is the Garland pattern. Now, I chose this one, Kathie, because it does use some smaller piecing in here, but it's still really fast, and it has some great movement. Now, I have chosen your fabric for the focus position, and we'll look at that in just a minute, which will be here. So you're going to have little touches of all those colors that are in your fabric in this quilt. So let's go check it out on the table and look at the fabric positions. So Kathie, as I mentioned at the quilt, we are going to be putting your fabric in the number 1 position, which is where the blue is on this quilt. So your quilt is a tossed fabric, so it works really well in things like pinwheels and stripes and different things, because no matter which way you turn it, it's going to look fabulous. You don't need to worry about that. So your fabric is going to go in all of these little parts where the blue is, the pinwheel and the strip piece here. Then we chose a number 2 that is neutral. So this is kind of an off-white with a little bit of a gray. It has just a little bit of a speckle to it, which kind of, remember, I like that continuity of if there's a dot in this, I like to find a dot in one of the other fabrics. But it also is a nice place for your eye to rest. For a number 2 fabric, that's really important, especially when you have a really great fabric like yours and you really want to see all of that pattern. You don't want to distract from it. So our number 2 is going everywhere the white is, and you can see it's also in the pinwheels here. So that's going to work really well. Now, I chose a number 3 fabric. I pulled in the purple from yours, and it's a tone-on-tone print. So it's not a super strong print. It's going to give you a little texture, but it's not going to distract from all of the beautiful colors in yours. So our number 3 fabric goes everywhere the red is, and it's just gonna border it perfectly so that yours really shines. So I think it's gonna be fantastic. Now, I'm gonna show you the image of what this looks like made up, and then I'm gonna talk about some other options. So first, let's look at that garland pattern made up with Kathie's fabric. And as you can see, her fabric works perfect in that number 1 position, where all those pinwheels are in there. The purple frames it perfectly so that it really draws your eye to those areas and gives you lots of movement. Just think it turned out great. Okay, so Kathie, a couple of other things I want to mention about your fabric. Because this fabric has so many different colors in it, what I would recommend is keeping your number 2 fabric pretty basic. So an off-white, a white, a light gray, a light blue, any of those colors, keep it pretty basic. Then in your number 3, pick up a coordinating color from yours. So in your fabric, you have this wonderful purple, you have some reds, you have some greens, you have some lighter greens that almost go yellow. You can put all of those colors with it as your number 3 so that it really pops and looks fantastic. Now, the garland pattern is from our Make It Christmas book. And I know that you said you had all of our books, but of course you're going to get an extra copy here. And I have pulled 2 other patterns from this book to put your fabric in. The first one that I'm going to show you is Favorite Things. Now, Favorite Things is like a half snowball. It's a great pattern. It's kind of one of my go-tos because you can put so many different fabrics in it. And in this case, the fabric 1, which is yours, and the fabric 3 look so great together. And that fabric 3 gives you a punch and you really are drawn to your fabric, which I really like. Super fast to put together too. Now the next one, which I had a lot of fun with, is Evergreen. Now I put, once again, your fabric in the focus position. And as you can see, the trees look great in your fabric. I think it is so cute. And the purple gives it so much movement. Now, once again, I want to mention, you can put lots of different colors in that number 3 position. Just look at the fabric and you'll be able to pull either the red, the greens, the golds, something out of it that I think so you could switch that off. Or even use your scraps, that would be great too. So I think the evergreen pattern turned out really, really great. So Kathie, I hope that gave you some ideas of some different things to do with your fabric. And for participating today, I am going to be sending you a copy of the Make It Christmas book, as well as 1 yard of our off-white and 1 yard of the purple. So thank you so very much. Okay, now let me see what else I have over here for you. So I have some really fun stuff. So this is a great fabric, and I picked it because it has that same kind of dot design to create the movement in the fabric, and it's multicolored, which I really, really like. So we are putting this in our focus, our number 1 position, which once again is the blue. So it'll be in this part here, as well as in our pinwheel. The same kind of off-white gray here with a little bit of texture to it will be our number 2 going in the background here. And then this great vibrant kind of raspberry red that pulls all the reds from this will be our border, just like it is in this quilt here. So everywhere the red is, we'll have red. So it's perfect. Now, I'm just going to backtrack just a little bit, Kathie. This is a great example of a red that would go with your fabric as well. It looks beautiful with this one too. Now, this focus fabric would look great with the purple as well, so you can mix it up. So I think it's a great way to do it. All you have to do is just look at all your little dots, pick one of those colors for your number 3, keep your number 2 very simple, and it'll give you that pop. So this is great. I think it's going to turn out great. Well, let me show you. Let's check out the image on the screen. It's turned out beautifully. I love the pop of the red, just love it. And the movement in the quilt, the way it's pieced, really helps to show off the focus fabric, which it's just fantastic. I really think it turned out great. Now, if you love to play around with your fabric and see it in the quilts before you make them, we have a special treat for you. If you haven't checked out prequilt.com, it is a great program online that you can go and put solid color fabrics into a Fabric Cafe pattern, or you can get an annual membership and you can use printed fabrics and download your own, which is really cool. Now we have a special treat for you and we've got a limited time. Be sure and go visit prequilt.com and we're going to be giving you 20% off the annual basic or market subscription. All you have to do is use the code FABRICCAFE. Now, the other thing is you need to hurry up because the deadline is June 30th and we don't want you to miss out on that 20% discount. Okay, so let's get the kit information on this last kit. This is just darling. I think it turned out great in this Garland pattern. This kit is called Happy and Colorful. The number is 8023224. The pattern is Garland from our Make It Christmas book, and we are suggesting the Courage pattern as an alternate. Now, before I share the next story, I want to give a little shout out to Judy. Judy was one of our previous Matchmaker participants, and she sent in a picture of her finished quilt. And Judy, what a fantastic job. Just love how it turned out. And I really appreciate you sharing your finished quilt with me. I think it really helps me know that I'm doing a service for you. So if you would like to share your finished quilt, if you were a participant at one time, be sure and send me an image to matchmaker@fabriccafe.com and we will get those quilts on air. We will go through them and let you know. So let's jump into our next participant and look at our next fabric swatch. So Zina sent in this beautiful bird fabric. Now this is really pretty. I love the birds and the roses on this fabric, and it has a very soft, pleasing background, which I really thought was great. Now let's see what she has to say about this fabric. So Zina writes, my mother-in-law has recently moved to Idaho to be near her family. She is loving it there, so I wanted to make her a special quilt with an Idaho reference. I fell in love with this bluebird fabric. Since it's the state bird of Idaho, I thought it would be a meaningful gift. I'm having trouble matching the colors in this print. They seem to be slightly off tone, especially the green in the leaves. Please help me so I can make something beautiful. Well, Zina, let's see what we've got for you here and go look at this pattern. So Zina, I have put your bluebird fabric in Valor, which probably looking at this seems very unlikely, but I'm going to tell you some of my reasons in just a moment when we put it on the table. But Valor has a nice block here that can showcase your birds, bordered beautifully with the number 3 fabric, and then the number 2 is in the background here. So let's put it on the table and we'll get those fabrics placed, show the image so that it all makes sense for you. Okay, Zina, I also want to shout out and tell you that I appreciate that you've sent me such a large piece of your fabric. So often when the pieces are really small, it's a little bit harder for me to work with, and it was a dream working with your fabric because I had such a large piece to work with. So thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, I have put your fabric in the number 1 position, as I mentioned, by the quilt, and that is the red area here. And that is what is going to showcase your birds. Now, in your letter, you mentioned that you were having a really hard time matching the greens, that the fabrics were just a little off color. So part of the reason why I chose Valor is because I could pull a blue as the number 3, and I'm just going to hop over there real quick. That really is a simpler blue that pops your blue. What that does is it's going to separate your focus from your number 2 fabric, because I honestly had the hardest time finding a background fabric in the same tone. So in order to make it work, what I did is I separated them. So your number 3 is going to border your focus fabric. It also frames it beautifully, so it works really well. Now the number 3 also is in the alternate block here with a little touch of your fabric right in the middle there, so it's really special. Now the number 2 fabric, as I mentioned, I've just got this nice kind of soft white. It's a tone on tone with a little bit of a vine in it, so it keeps that garden feel, which I really like. And as you can see, it's not the same tone, but because I separated your fabric with the number 3 in that block, it really does help. So that's a little trick that I do a lot. Like if I can't quite get the right match, like the green's a little gray and I can't seem to find something that's really working with it, what I'll do is I'll contrast it like I did with the blue so that I can really help it pop and it still look fabulous. So let's check out the image on that screen so you can see what I'm talking about. So obviously The number 1 fabric, you can tell, is just a little bit darker background, but because it's framed with that blue, it works really well. It creates a really clean, nice, pleasing quilt for you. So I hope it works really well as a memory for your mother living in Idaho. All right, for participating today, Zina, I am going to be sending you our brand new book, Make It Patriotic, which has the Valor pattern in it here, as well as 1 yard of your fabric 2 and your fabric 3. So thank you so much for sending in your fabric, and helped me learn a few things as well. So I really, really appreciate it. All right, let's see what else we have. Okay, so I was able to find this really sweet Bluebird fabric. Now this one's on pink, and it has a little bit of touches of the corals in it. So I kind of went a little bit of a different direction, but I thought it turned out really darling. So this bird, blues, pinks, corals, greens, will be your focus, and it's going here in this block as well as the smaller block here in our alternate. It's very sweet. I really liked this one. And then I put this kind of a floral. Now it's a very simple pattern. This is our number 2, and it's going to go in the background here. Now remember, it's separated with the number 3, so it's going to work beautifully. You'll see in just a moment with the image. So I liked this one because this kind of pink coral flower here picks up all of the kind of pinky corals in the bird fabric, so it blended beautifully. Then as our number 3, once again, we're using a little bit of a pop. I've picked up a really nice tone-on-tone polka dot here, pin dot, that picks up all of these flower colors. This is going to be our border, so it separates the bird and the flower so that you really get your punch, and it really does look beautiful. All right, as you can see from the image on the screen, how that number 3 fabric is doing its job to keep them separated and keep that pop. So it's unified by the color because all of these do have the coral in it, but it keeps it from getting too busy and too much with that number 3 pop. So I think it worked just beautifully. So the kit number on this one is 8023225. It is called Idaho Bluebirds. It is our Valor pattern in our brand new patriotic book, and we are suggesting the alternate pattern of Picture Perfect. Well, I want to thank all of the participants today for sending in your fabric. It was a joy to work with them. And thank you also, Judy, for sending in your image of your quilt. And if you have been a previous participant of Matchmaker, I would love to see those images. Just email them to me at matchmaker@fabriccafe.com, and I will go through them. I would love to see them. It makes me so happy. Also, don't forget about that special with Pre-Quilt, ends June 30th, so be sure and check that out. Well, thanks again. It's Fran Morgan, your fabric matchmaker.